The subconscious mind is the master program that dictates 95% of human behavior. It is a vast network of stored experiences, beliefs, and emotions, many of which operate outside of conscious awareness. When a person doesn't act, even when every fiber of their being craves something, it is not a matter of logic, it is a matter of programming. The conscious mind may generate a thought, an impulse, or even a deep yearning, but the subconscious mind determines whether that thought will lead to action. From early childhood, every emotional experience, every relationship dynamic, and every moment of pleasure or pain becomes encoded in the subconscious. These patterns create an invisible framework through which a person perceives the world. If a man has been conditioned to associate emotional vulnerability with rejection, abandonment, or unworthiness, then even in the presence of desire, his subconscious mind will override the impulse to reach out. His body will flood with the same emotions he felt in past experiences of loss or failure. Instead of moving forward, he will retreat. Instead of connecting, he will resist. Neuroscience reveals that thoughts create chemical reactions in the brain that trigger corresponding emotions in the body. If a man begins to think about contacting you, but his subconscious mind links emotional intimacy to potential pain, the brain signals stress chemicals: cortisol, adrenaline, and norepinephrine. His heart may pound, his palms may sweat, and instead of feeling excitement, he feels discomfort. His subconscious mind is trying to protect him by keeping him in a familiar state, even if that state is loneliness. Every thought he repeats reinforces a neural pathway. If he has spent years wiring his brain to associate relationships with risk, he will unconsciously create distance even from what he desires most. This is not an intentional act of avoidance, it is an automatic survival response. The subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a real threat and a perceived one. It only knows what it has been taught. If love, connection, and emotional expression have ever been linked with hurt, then silence becomes his subconscious mind's way of maintaining control. Another factor that determines behavior is identity. A person's subconscious beliefs about who they are shape every decision they make. If a man identifies as someone who is strong, independent, or emotionally detached, reaching out could feel like an act that contradicts his self-image. The subconscious mind resists anything that challenges identity, because identity is the foundation of survival. If he believes that expressing his emotions makes him weak, then his subconscious will create resistance to any action that aligns with that belief. Habits are also stored in the subconscious mind. If a man has spent years suppressing emotions rather than expressing them, his brain has become wired for emotional avoidance. It is not simply a matter of choosing to act differently, it is a matter of rewiring his entire neurological framework. Habits are formed through repetition, and the longer they persist, the stronger they become. His nervous system has adapted to a state where avoidance is familiar, and familiarity is what the brain seeks for efficiency. Emotions are energy, and energy follows patterns. The subconscious mind operates in cycles. What has been repeated in the past will continue to manifest in the present unless disrupted. If his subconscious mind has created a cycle of craving and withdrawing, then that cycle will persist until something breaks the pattern. This is why many people find themselves in repeating relationship dynamics, always attracting the same emotional experiences despite conscious efforts to change. The subconscious mind is not concerned with what is wanted, it is concerned with what is known. When a man does not contact you, it is not because he does not feel, it is because his subconscious mind has determined that staying silent is safer than taking action. He is living in a conditioned state, running a program that was written long before he ever met you. If that program tells him that emotional vulnerability leads to pain, then no amount of longing will override that belief unless he consciously rewires his mind. The subconscious is also influenced by external triggers. If his past experiences have led him to associate attachment with suffering, then even the thought of reaching out can activate old wounds. His subconscious remembers every time he felt dismissed, rejected or unseen. These emotional imprints become a lens through which he interprets the present. Even if there is no real danger, his nervous system reacts as if there is. The subconscious mind does not work through logic. It works through emotional associations. It categorizes experiences into pain and pleasure, safety and risk. If he has trained his mind to believe that love is uncertain, then no amount of desire will override the protective mechanisms his subconscious has put in place. He will crave you, think about you, and even visualize being with you, but his body will be conditioned to resist action. Neuroplasticity. The brain's ability to change means that these patterns are not permanent, but change requires awareness and effort. Until a person becomes conscious of their subconscious programming, they will continue to live out the same cycles, making the same choices, feeling the same emotions, and wondering why they can't break free. Desire and fear are two of the most powerful forces governing human behavior, yet they often exist in direct opposition to each other. When a man craves you but does not reach out, it is not because his desire is weak, it is because his fear is stronger. Desire is the impulse that pulls him towards you, the longing that keeps you on his mind, the energy that fuels his fantasies and emotions. But fear is the wall that stops him from acting, the invisible force that convinces him it is safer to do nothing than to take a risk. Desire is rooted in emotion, chemistry, and biology. The brain releases dopamine when a person thinks about something they want, creating feelings of excitement and anticipation. This chemical surge drives motivation, making a person eager to move toward their object of desire. But the moment the subconscious mind perceives a potential threat, rejection, loss, or vulnerability, the brain activates the stress response, flooding the body with cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals trigger anxiety, hesitation, and self-doubt. Suddenly, the excitement of wanting is overtaken by the fear of what could go wrong. When a man craves you but does not contact you, he is caught in this internal conflict. On one side, his mind is filled with thoughts of you, memories of how he feels in your presence, and an almost magnetic pull toward connection. On the other side, his subconscious is running every possible scenario where reaching out leads to pain. If he has ever experienced rejection, abandonment, or humiliation in the past, his brain will retrieve those emotional imprints and project them onto the present moment. The subconscious does not differentiate between past and present, it simply repeats patterns. Fear often disguises itself as logic. A man may rationalize his inaction with thoughts like, "She probably isn't interested," "I don't want to seem desperate," or "maybe she's better off without me." These thoughts do not originate from truth, they originate from fear. The subconscious mind creates these rationalizations to justify avoidance, making it seem like a logical decision rather than an emotional reaction. He may tell himself he is being strong by staying silent, when in reality, he is allowing fear to dictate his behavior. The fear of rejection is deeply ingrained in the human psyche. From an evolutionary perspective, rejection once meant exclusion from the tribe, which could lead to isolation and survival threats. Even though modern relationships do not carry the same life or death consequences, the nervous system still reacts as if they do. When a man considers reaching out but imagines being ignored or dismissed, his brain interprets that as a social threat. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing fear, activates, sending signals that tell him to retreat. Beyond rejection, there is also the fear of losing control. Many people have been conditioned to associate emotional vulnerability with weakness. If a man has built an identity around being independent, self-sufficient, or emotionally guarded, then expressing desire may feel like surrendering power. He may crave connection, but he does not want to feel exposed. Reaching out could make him feel as if he is giving you control over his emotions, and that perceived loss of control can be more terrifying than loneliness. Another layer of fear stems from past trauma. If he has been hurt before, his subconscious mind will do everything in its power to prevent a repeat experience. Even if you are nothing like the people who have hurt him in the past, his nervous system does not take the risk. It operates based on stored emotional memories, reacting to perceived danger rather than objective reality. He may crave you, but if his subconscious mind associates closeness with pain, he will sabotage the very thing he wants. The human brain is wired for self-preservation. If a man believes that staying silent is the safest option, he will resist every urge to reach out, no matter how much he wants to. He may check his phone, type and delete messages, replay memories of you in his mind, and feel the weight of his own hesitation. But until he confronts the root of his fear, desire alone will not be enough to push him into action. Even if his fear is irrational, it feels real to him. The subconscious mind is not logical, it is emotional. It does not respond to what is true, it responds to what it believes. If he believes that reaching out could lead to pain, disappointment, or loss of self-respect, he will stay silent, even as every cell in his body longs to do the opposite. Fear wins not because it is stronger than desire, but because it is the force that the subconscious mind has been trained to obey. Everything in the universe operates on energy, including human relationships. The emotions you feel, the thoughts you think, and the way you carry yourself all generate a frequency that others can sense, whether they realize it consciously or not. Attraction is not just about looks, words, or actions. It is about energy. The way you feel about yourself, the expectations you hold, and the beliefs you carry create an invisible field around you that either draws people in or pushes them away. When a man craves you but does not contact you, his inaction is not just about fear or conditioning, it is also about the energy dynamic between you. Every relationship, whether romantic or not, exists within an energetic exchange. If you are constantly thinking about why he is not reaching out, wondering if he will ever call, or feeling anxious about his silence, that energy becomes part of the connection. Without realizing it, you are feeding into an energetic loop where he remains distant and you remain waiting. Energy follows attention. The more you focus on his absence, the more you reinforce the dynamic of longing and lack. The subconscious mind does not recognize the difference between wanting something and missing something. It only amplifies whatever you consistently focus on. If your dominant emotional state is one of waiting, hoping, or feeling unworthy of his effort, that frequency will shape the reality of your connection. The more you chase, whether physically or energetically, the more he pulls away. Masculine and feminine energy operate in a natural polarity. The masculine energy, which is action-oriented, is drawn toward mystery, challenge, and movement. The feminine energy, which is receptive and magnetic, naturally attracts without needing to chase. When a woman leans too far into pursuit mode, energetically or physically, it disrupts this polarity. The more she reaches out, the more he retreats. The more she focuses on his absence, the more he feels an unconscious pressure, even if she says nothing at all. The energy of chasing, whether through messages, thoughts, or emotions, creates an imbalance that pushes him further into his own hesitation. There is a reason why detachment often leads to attraction. When you shift your energy from longing to presence, from waiting to living, the dynamic changes. Instead of emitting a frequency of need, you radiate a frequency of fulfillment. People are drawn to those who embody confidence, peace, and self-worth because that energy feels stable and strong. If he feels that you are energetically tethered to him, even without words, he will sense that attachment and instinctively pull away to maintain his own autonomy. But when he senses that you are centered, content, and not seeking validation from his actions, his energy has room to move towards you. The subconscious mind of a man responds to how he perceives your energy. If he senses that you are emotionally dependent on his response, response. He may feel pressure, even if that pressure is unspoken. That pressure creates resistance. However, when he feels that you are a source of warmth, joy, and confidence without expectation or demand, he will feel naturally drawn to reconnect. This shift is not about manipulation. It is about stepping into your own power. The energy of attraction is strongest when it comes from a place of abundance rather than lack. When a man craves you but does not act, it is often because he senses both attraction and hesitation at the same time. If the energy between you is one of emotional attachment, urgency, or fear, it creates an inner conflict for him. He may want to reach out, but something in the dynamic feels heavy or pressured. When the energy between you is light, free, and unattached, his subconscious registers safety, desire, and curiosity, making him more likely to act. Everything is energy, including communication. The words you speak, the emotions you hold, and the thoughts you entertain all send signals, whether spoken or unspoken. If you carry an expectation of disappointment, he will unconsciously mirror that energy. If you carry an expectation of certainty and trust in yourself, that confidence becomes magnetic. The moment you shift your focus from his lack of action to your own inner state, the energy between you begins to transform. Attraction is not about proving your worth to someone else. It is about embodying the frequency of someone who already knows their worth. When you hold the energy of someone who is deeply fulfilled with or without his attention, the entire dynamic changes. People are drawn to those who radiate certainty, ease, and joy. The more you focus on elevating your own energy, the more you naturally attract the experiences, relationships, and connections that align with that vibration. Emotional addiction is a pattern that keeps people trapped in cycles of longing, waiting, and hoping for external validation. The human brain, much like the body, develops dependencies on certain emotional states, even if those emotions are painful. When someone is constantly thinking about why a man is not contacting them, checking their phone, replaying past conversations, and seeking signs that he still cares, they are caught in an emotional loop. This loop is not just a habit of the mind, it is a biochemical addiction in the body. The brain releases chemicals based on thoughts and emotions. When a person experiences love, excitement, or connection, their brain produces dopamine and oxytocin, creating feelings of pleasure and attachment. But when they experience longing, uncertainty, or rejection, the brain releases cortisol and adrenaline, triggering anxiety and stress. Over time, the body becomes conditioned to these chemical patterns and, just like any addiction, it craves the emotional highs and lows that come with them. This is why some people find themselves constantly thinking about someone who is not giving them the attention they want. The body is not just missing the person, it is missing the biochemical response associated with that person. When someone repeatedly focuses on another person's absence, they reinforce neural pathways associated with longing and unworthiness. Every time they check their phone to see if he has messaged, their brain releases a small hit of dopamine in anticipation, much like a gambler waiting for the next big win. But when there is no message, the crash that follows strengthens the cycle of emotional dependence. The more this pattern repeats, the stronger the brain's wiring becomes, making it harder to break free. People often mistake emotional addiction for love. They believe that their intense thoughts and feelings about someone are a sign of deep connection, when in reality, it is the brain's dependency on the emotional roller coaster. True love feels calm, secure, and fulfilling. Emotional addiction feels anxious, obsessive, and unstable. The mind creates stories that justify the addiction, convincing a person that they need closure, that they just want an answer, that if only they understood why he is distant, they could move on. But these thoughts are just part of the cycle, keeping the brain engaged in the familiar pattern of seeking and not receiving. The subconscious mind plays a powerful role in this cycle. If someone has unresolved wounds related to abandonment, rejection, or self-worth, their subconscious will seek out situations that trigger those wounds because they feel familiar. The subconscious is not concerned with happiness, it is concerned with what is known. If someone grew up feeling unseen, unchosen, unchosen or unworthy, their subconscious mind will recreate those emotional experiences in adult relationships, not because they want pain, but because pain is familiar. The emotional addiction is not just to a person, but to the feeling of chasing validation. Breaking free from emotional addiction requires awareness and conscious effort. The first step is recognizing that the mind and body are running a program that does not serve true well-being. This means shifting focus away from the other person and towards self-awareness. Instead of asking, why isn't he reaching out? Ask, why am I so attached to his response? Instead of wondering what he is thinking, reflect on the emotions that keep repeating. The power lies in breaking the cycle, not in understanding his behavior. Detoxing from emotional addiction is similar to breaking free from any other addiction. It requires a period of withdrawal where the brain and body rewire themselves to function without the chemical highs and lows. This means resisting the urge to check for messages, replay conversations, or seek closure from an external source. Each time a person chooses not to engage in the addictive thought pattern, they weaken the neural pathways that keep them stuck. Over time, the brain rewires itself and the emotional charge associated with that person begins to fade. The nervous system also plays a role in emotional addiction. When someone is caught in an anxious attachment pattern, their body remains in a state of hypervigilance, always scanning for signs of connection or disconnection. This keeps the nervous system in a fight or flight response, making it difficult to feel calm and centered. Regulating the nervous system through breath work, meditation, and self-care helps break the cycle by teaching the body that safety and fulfillment do not come from external validation, but from within. Reclaiming power means shifting from emotional dependence to emotional mastery. Instead of being controlled by external circumstances, a person learns to create their own sense of fulfillment. This requires stepping into self-worth, recognizing that no one else holds the key to happiness, and breaking free from the illusion that another person's attention defines value. The more someone strengthens their internal sense of self, the less power external situations have over their emotions.